Greetings, viewers. This is CP666 signing on once again for a video of this Compaq Armada 1535DM, which is courtesy, yet again, of Ross ACB, and I've had it for actually, well, it's been quite a while. I've had it since Christmas. It's nothing but that getting things done spirit, huh? Anyway, so I think it's been around the block for a little while. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look at some of the features that it's got. It's got two latches on the display. Go ahead and flip it right up here. You can see, and this case is really not designed for this kind of thing, which is really annoying, but there's a floppy drive there. Two PC card slots. I don't know if they're card bus compatible or not, which is an important distinction that a lot of people don't actually make. But it's just got a couple of little blank modules in it right now. See, I'm smart enough to go ahead and put that back in there on video. Put those back as well. This modem here, if you take a look at the back, there is a PS2 port, infrared data exchange port right there. There's a cooling fan, dot connector, and this thing is actually unique. Well, actually, it's not really unique. There were a lot of systems that did this, but it's got a built-in power supply. I really wish more manufacturers would do that. I just preferred Toshiba's approach of using a proper boombox-style power supply rather than this grounded one, but I suppose having the ground pin probably makes it just that much safer. Anyway, I'm not sure what this is. This might be a microphone. There's VGA, parallel, serial. On this side, we have an optical drive, it's just a CD-ROM drive, and this is what I would presume is the battery right there. Looks like volume controls, and a headphone and a microphone jack, and of course, Kensington lock. And if we go ahead and open the machine up, and make things hit the floor in the process, hopefully I can actually open the machine up with one hand. You can see it's a little more revealing here. We have a Pentium MMX sticker. It's a little bit older than the Presario that I just looked at some point. Hopefully you'll have seen that video already. If not, it's coming. This, I'm sure, is probably going to confuse somebody, or will have confused somebody. It looks like there are two power switches, but that's not true. This is the power switch, and this is a standby switch. If you flick this over to the side, it will put the system into standby mode. Then a couple of what looks like function keys. These are probably macro keys, is more accurate. You could program them to do whatever you want. You'll notice that this keyboard is missing a Windows key. And that's right, back in the day when you didn't even have that kind of thing. You didn't even need it for anything else. These days, I'm sure somebody probably wouldn't be able to figure out their way around without a Windows key. Stereo speakers. And of course, we got a trackpad, because every laptop has to have a trackpad. And here we go. A fully integrated notebook that gets down to business. Anytime, anywhere. With a fast internet connection. Yeah, that modem was considered fast back in the day. I think it's actually a 56K modem, which would have been pretty fast. But it might not be. It might just be 33.6. Or even 28.8, heaven forbid. We even call out the integrated AC adapter. It would have shipped with Windows NT or Windows 95. It's got two batteries. Oh, I didn't know that. Could you actually have two batteries in this, or would one of them go into this bay right here? Huh. Interesting. Well, let's go ahead and power it up and show you another oddity about Compaq systems of the time period. Or maybe not. Probably should plug it in first. Yeah, if you plug it in, it probably works a little better, you know? Well, anyway, let's try that again. Here it comes. It's Toshiba hard drive. I think there's a little bit of a memory problem here, because it only reports 16 megabytes. Watch that cursor. That cursor was going to go over to the other corner, and I might have actually missed it. I think I missed it. So we might have to try it again. Now here we go. Now it's starting. Oh, no, I did get it. But this is something that IBM did. IBM had the so-called reference partition, or the convenience partition, whereby instead of using a reference disk, or basically a setup diskette to configure your system, it would have the system programs on the hard drive. Well, Compaq and IBM, or actually it was more so Compaq, copied pretty much everything IBM did, and so this is basically the same deal. I actually do have the floppies for this, but I just booted off of the convenience partition on the internal hard drive. It's really not that big of a deal to just do that. Hopefully when I go to reinstall the OS on this, which is probably going to be Windows 95, well, I don't actually wreck that convenience partition. But we'll see. I'm not really sure what version of 95 I'm going to install on this. Might even be the floppy disk version, which ought to be real fun. Either way, we'll come in here and we'll take a look. Does the mouse work? No, the mouse is not working in this particular portion of the utility. You can go ahead and pause the video to read that. It's at this point that I'll point out the display. This is unfortunately one of those passive matrix displays. This is it dual scan? I don't even think it's dual scan. I think it's a single scan passive matrix display. So, if you were ever wondering why the pointer trails option exists in Windows, or the larger cursors, these displays were the reason why, because the low refresh rate, and it's difficult to see even when you're just looking at it now, made it very easy to lose the pointer. And until Microsoft dealt with this in Windows, you had to install third-party utilities to give you special software in order to, special driver anyway, in order to do this. And my tape is about to run out, so hopefully I can get this done here. So we've got computer setup, computer checkup, view system information, create a diskette, manage the partition, and exit from the utility, and we can press F1 and get a little bit of help. Compaq personal computers use a battery-powered memory device. I'm talking about the CMOS. So there you go. Now if I push F1 on another one of these, it'll give you other options, or other information. I'm probably going to have to change this tape here very shortly. It'd be a little easier if I could do this with the mouse, but I'm managing. It's very helpful. Of course, what do you think they're going to tell you, right? Of course, you can't do anything unless you're on the diskette from that. And again, very helpful setup option. So let's go over to computer setup. Ought to be the first thing that we check. And the computer will reboot. I just pushed enter. I think there's an optical disk in the optical drive. Nope, there isn't. Sure sounded like there was. Well, this should go into setup now. Yeah, it looks like that's what it's done. Computer setup. Here you can see bears more than a slight resemblance to Windows 3.1. A lot more than a slight resemblance, in fact. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these things. And the mouse actually will work in this portion of setup. We can have a look here. It's Pentium 133. I wonder if there's an updated BIOS for this thing. Probably not that you can find anyway. I couldn't even find system drivers for the let's call it a Pavilion, the Presario over there. A couple of options for power management. Probably should disable a lot of this junk, because I don't really think that a computer this old especially ought to be doing much power management stuff. There's only so much you can really do anyway. There's your yep, I sure ran that out of tape. So we'll come back over here to the system that we were discussing. Use boot management options. You can disable diskette booting, which is more helpful than you think. There are a lot of boot sector viruses back in the day. You don't want one of those in a business. On a business machine, you might want to lock it down quite a bit, which is what this really would have been. Consumers probably wouldn't have bought something like this. A consumer would have bought something more like the Presario, as opposed to this. There's your asset tag. Of course, we can get help in here as well. And again, bears more than a slight resemblance to Microsoft Windows. In fact, it even works with, like, it basically almost is Microsoft Windows. And cancel on that. Here we go for things at the printer port. Kind of funny they call it the 16550A COM port. It's a serial port. It is configured for ECP. I don't know if you could even configure it for something other than ECP. It seems to imply that you want ECP. See, oh, looks like there's two though. There's three serial ports. Because the infrared port is also serial. That's interesting. So let's see. There's the IRQ stuff. What is this? Now you can configure all this stuff. I'm not sure. I only saw one serial port on this system. So that's interesting. Not sure why three of them would be showing up. Well, I saw two. I saw the infrared, but let's take a look at our disk drive stuff. It uses an Opti chipset. That's odd. Wouldn't see their name anymore. Of course, it's not. This is all the plug-and-play information. Here's our hard drive. It's a 1.4 gigabyte drive, and as I mentioned previously, it's very definitely a Toshiba drive. You can tell by the sounds that it makes. Here's a floppy controller. You can actually change this. So I hope it's set right. And again, you can disable diskette booting from in here. Some of these options might be duplicated. Input devices. We're probably not really going to show too much more of this. Audio. A lot of this is really just I/O ranges and things like that. And also the plug-and-play information. Yeah, back when plug-and-play was a relatively new concept. Cirrus Logic VGA. Now, Cirrus Logic, actually, it wasn't considered high-end or anything like that, but, you know, it was decent. There were a lot worse chipsets you could get. For example, Chromatic Research, which I think was around when this system would have been made. Those are awful, awful things. They really, really cannot do, they suck. Their VGA emulation is really slow, and it looks... You can tell it's VGA emulation as opposed to actual VGA. It really just is they're weird. I really don't like them. They're difficult to get working too. Other devices. There's a lot of stuff that shows up in here for whatever reason. It's all probably pretty much exactly the same. You know, you get your properties and your resources, and that's it. You can just look at them. And you can probably change the resources, but you probably don't want to be screwing around with that, because you could be in for a real world of hurt if you do. We got some tools. For adding legacy stuff. Look at About. There's our version of the setup utility. We'll go ahead and we'll exit the setup utility. We'll see what the system does. It reboots. I'm going to go ahead and check out some of the other stuff as well. If you push F10, you might be able to see the cursor go over to this corner. It turns into a block. Or maybe it doesn't on this model. Yeah, it did for a second there. So we'll go to Computer Checkup. That's amusing. Let's go for the prompted diagnostics. That seems to be as good as anything else. We'll see what it happens to do. Hopefully it doesn't hang. That'll certainly be about my luck. Give me just a second. We'll see if it does anything. Well, unfortunately, the diagnostic stuff doesn't seem to be working. It was hanging at the serial port, possibly because there's nothing plugged into it. But we can at least look at inspect. You can go ahead and see here. You can see some information about the system itself. 387 compatible. Is there any further information? Or is that all we got? Well, there's a couple pieces. 256K of cache. There's your asset tag. It's running in real mode right now. And in high speed with normal temperature. Thermal monitoring is actually an odd thing to have in a Pentium system. But it is there. So we're not running in the so-called, we're actually basically running real mode is a sort of 8088 emulation mode. If you want to look up the details, you can go do so. It's beyond this video, really. And honestly, I probably should be getting to the meat and potatoes of this. I mean, this video's gone on for probably almost 20 minutes now. And here you can see some ROM information. Even the keyboard controller ROM. There's the option ROM for the VGA. Enhanced keyboard, huh? Isn't that nice? There's your ports. It is identifying 3 serial ports. There's the modem. It is only 33.6. I'm kind of surprised to see that. Huh? Well, it is what it is, really. 10-speed optical drive, 1.44 meg floppy, and again, it's definitely a 1.4 gigabyte hard drive from Toshiba. One mega video memory. Right now we're running in 640 by 480 graphics. Is that really what we're running in? I don't know, I would have thought that would be a little bigger than that. 16 megs of RAM. It's not actually identifying any RAM in the... I could swear to you that there was RAM in that slot. I guess it's either the slot's broken or it just doesn't like it. So I might have to experiment with that later. ESS audio drive audio, which is really good. Operating system. MS-DOS 6. I guess that's the convenience partition. Or, I'm sorry, they don't call it a convenience partition. The Diagnostics partition. That's IBM parlance. System files. Actually, no, this is on the actual hard drive. Interesting. Miscellaneous. Information that you probably won't actually understand. Oh, the kinds of things that we used to get into before the days of plug and play. Inspecting memory addresses and all kinds of things. You can really see the slow refresh rate of this display. In fact, you can barely even read any of that stuff. We'll go ahead and get out of inspect here. I'm not going to bother with making a diagnostics diskette. I'm just going to go ahead and exit the utility. System will reboot. And we'll watch it start up. I already know it's running Windows 98. With floppy seek. You might be able to see for that split second the cursor goes over to the corner like that. And then we will boot into Windows 98. I don't think there's anything that's terrifically confidential that shows up here. Oh, we got a driver missing. But I'm probably going to be installing Windows 95 on this. I think I probably could actually do this without formatting the drive even. I think the audio works. Guess we'll find out. Sure does. Of course, I'm not going to reinstall Windows if I can't actually find any of the drivers. I'll just clean up this existing installation. Even though I really don't like to do that. On a system like this that's not going to ever see any network connectivity, it's at least marginally safer than a system that you're going to have on the internet or connected to your network. I mean, that's thoroughly obsolete software. Acrobat Reader 5.0. I don't know what version of Idiot Exploiter this thing is running. We find out. The system is taking a little bit of time here. Loading up all the TSRs. I'm sure people don't call them that anymore. The system tray icons. We used to call them terminate and stay resident programs. They used to take up quite a bit of valuable free memory space back when programs had to load into the base 640K of memory. Again, it was a very different time. In fact, this Windows 98, although it gives the appearance that it's nice and modern, was pretty much exactly the same. And you could run into quite a few different problems. Which is why it was really nice when Windows NT style products finally made it to the consumer desktop. Oh, the stability was great. Anyway. Then we'll see if we can actually figure out any information about this installation. I mean, we already know what the CPU is. We know how much RAM it's got in it. We know all that information, so I'm not going to go over that again. Just to make this video a little bit shorter. Not that it'll really matter. Ultimately, it's going to be a fairly long video anyway. I really got to get to bed. It's almost 5 in the morning. And even with the goings-ons now, I do still technically have to work, so here's one thing. Okay, so what do we got here? We got 1.32 gigabyte system partition. And there's 774 megabytes free. So what would that leave us with? Can I even do this? I hate trackpads, especially these early ones. 585 megabytes of used space. So it's a little bit less than halfway used. It'll be interesting to try and clean that off. Now, can we see what version of Idiot Exploiter is running on this? We're on about Windows 98, so no, I think we're going to have to open up Internet Explorer to find out. This display is really difficult to read. It's one of the big problems of passive matrix displays. But, of course, if you wanted an active matrix display, be prepared to add an extra $1,000+ to your price tag, especially if it was color. These passive matrix displays were really the only reason why color made it to consumer-grade laptops when they did, or laptops in general when they did, because color active matrix displays were horrendously expensive. In fact, if you go looking up Macintosh PowerBook, you might not be too surprised to find, and it's been a while since I looked at this, so I think I got it wrong, but a grayscale PowerBook 180 would have cost you about $4,000 when it was new. The 180C, with the much smaller color display, ran you almost $6,000. Quite a big difference. And that was pretty much like that across the board. So let's see what version of Internet Explorer this is actually running. Based on that icon, I would guess it probably hasn't been updated. It's still running IE4. Yuck. Oh. I really hated Internet Explorer 4. Of course, the alternative options weren't really all that great either. Oh boy. Well, that's a very interesting thing to have as a home page. Of course, it can't hope to open because I don't have a modem connected to this, and I don't have an extra Ethernet card, and I'm not going to hook this up to my network anyway. I don't know what's on it. I don't want to know what's on it. So we'll just select work offline. I really don't care about what's on this anyway. Looks like somebody did actually use Internet Explorer. Yeah, I don't really care, IE. I just want you to maximize so I can actually see what I'm doing. Oh dear. Oh boy. Yeah, there could be nefarious things on this hard drive. I'm not going to explore that, though. I hope I don't find any of that. I haven't before, but there is certainly a first time for everything. It's Internet Explorer 5. No, it's not terrible. I'm still not a fan of it. If you ask me, Internet Explorer 3.0 was the last really good version. Before all that overactive desktop garbage really kind of took over. Okay, I think that's enough editorializing for one video. So I'm going to shut this thing down and I'm going to go to sleep. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below. Yeah, I definitely miss the days when hard drives made that much noise. Could do without the spindle motor, but it was nice to know when a hard drive was actually doing work. Especially when a hard drive was getting ready to have trouble. I mean, you could tell, you could hear it. This is CP 666 signing off. Hope to see you next time. Tell that, I don't think it's got a shutdown sound registered. No, it doesn't. If I can find the drivers for the machine, I think my next video will be installing Windows 95 on this. Might even be from floppy diskette, I don't know. But if not, I've got a million other projects to do anyway.